want to welcome you all to Eugene, which is cooperating weather-wise for once. And I'm glad you were all able to make it. I know that for a one-day meeting like this, you're doing an awful lot of traveling. And that's a level of stress put on you that I can appreciate and understand. And I am very grateful that you're able to take the time and energy to make the trip and join us. So what I'm going to do is to just give you a quick intro to what it is that we're planning on doing today, and then we'll do a little breakout in this room in order to get things going. And then the rest of the day there are breakout sessions for the most part till we come back for our plenary session at the end of the day. And breakout sessions are set up so that it's basically the same topic in each of the three breakouts, three breakout topics in each of three sessions, and your team will be cycling through them. So that's one reason why you need to know which team you're on, so you know which time you're going to which breakout. Okay? And that's that, as you'll see, is on one of the slides. Okay, so first thing I want to do is to introduce the U of O people, but they're not all here yet. But I'll introduce the ones I'm here, and I think most everyone in the room has encountered me at one stage or another. So, and I'll say a little bit more about this project in just a minute. But I'm really pleased to have stole away from the University of Oregon's STEP program their project coordinator, who is now joining me on this grant as my project coordinator, Kate Hulke. Kate will be leading one of the breakout sessions today. I'll be leading another. John Post is in the back of the room. He's the new undergraduate working on a project who's going to be videoing us, and this will be up on Step Central hopefully within a week or maybe two, depending on how long it takes us to figure out what it is that we're doing. Jeremy's not here yet, is he? Okay. So the programming team from Concentric Sky, they're the web developers who are responsible for developing Step Central. Jeremy will be joining us later. Mike Bigland is the other one from Concentric Sky who we've been intimately involved with. I don't think Mike is going to be at the meeting today, but I'll throw him up there too, so you know who they are. Whoops. You don't want to see my ones. All right. Claire Strawn is the evaluator for our project. She's from the International Society for Technology and Education, which just happens to be located in Eugene, which is really, really helpful for us. And Claire will also be leading one of the breakout sessions today, and she will be assisted by Brandon Olszewski, who is not here at the moment, I guess. All right. So here's the first question. Why are we here? And if you look at the agenda, Kate did, I think, a good job of summarizing what it is that we're all about. Our project started back in the days when I was at NSF as a program officer. And one of my duties while I was at NSF was to run the annual PI meeting, or STEP Grantees meeting. I did that for a couple of years while I was there. And then when I left NSF, I was the co-lead of the STEP program at NSF. Then when I left NSF, they decided there was no way they could replace me. In fact, it took 2 NSF program officers to be the new co-leads of STEP after I left. I don't know how many there are now. Are you one of the co-leads of STEP? Okay. So by the way, this is Jose Herrera from NSF, our who's now one of the new co-leads. And even then, they asked me to continue to run the meetings and asked me to write a grant proposal so that I could continue to do this from Eugene, which I did. And come on in and have a seat, Dave. Here's your packet. And then in the process of doing that, several people said, you know, STEP really needs its own website. And so we started getting involved with the production of what is now STEP Central. And we wrote another little small grant to pilot STEP Central, which we did. And then as we were thinking about, well, how do we get this really off the ground so that it's something that's really used by a lot of people, that's really useful, and people find it someplace that they want to go to get information, learn about other projects. So in that context, we started thinking about, well, what we really need is to integrate in some way all of the activities associated with STEM into a community of practice and have each of them feeding back off of each other so that they're the most useful. All these tools, like the meetings and so forth, are most useful to the community. So that's what we did. We wrote a proposal to do that, and that was funded. And the first item on the agenda of that proposal was to have this meeting, which was originally going to be a meeting of, I don't know, we thought maybe 6 to 10 people, because we assumed that that would be all we could get. Then when I sent out the word and we got 60 applications for the workshop, and I was a little taken back by it in a very positive sense, we decided to increase the size of the workshop and invite as many people as the grant could afford. And that's why, from our perspective, why you're here. Now, what I'd like you to do is to take a few minutes at your individual tables and introduce yourselves to one another and tell each other why you decided to come or why you submitted an application. I'd like to hear from you, you know, what the reasons are. We know the reasons why we wanted to bring you here, but it's important for you people to articulate to yourselves and then to us why you wanted to come. So we'll take a few minutes and we'll go ahead and do that. Don't be shy. Okay, I'm going to let you go for a couple more minutes, but I'd like someone from each table to be prepared to report on the gestalt of what's emerging from your table in 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, then you have 1 minute each.
I think it's a really fascinating study, but you want to know how intervention programs are structured, how they're staffed, how they funded, how they This is my question. How they evaluate that? How do they tell
See, which table is ready to go? It's like this table, you guys have some time, there's only 4 people at each table. Who's are you ready to go? Okay, Dean.
Okay, so we talked about purpose for being here. You all have various backgrounds. I talked about purpose is actually having better communication between STEP programs. Basically, beyond the annual meeting. So basically more systematic way for us to connect with each other and share best practices and things like that. Let me see, Kimberly talked about actually sharing that information out to the outside world, within STEP. Jennifer talked about actually having information for better guidance for people that were just starting with their STEP programs, first and second grade teachers, things like that. So they talked about actually taking that information that happens here and we're laying it out to the rest of the United States, maybe the world, I don't know.
Well, at least you can take it back in and stuff.
And I think Tom concurred that basically spreading the good to users words was a good idea. That's what we do as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brief kind of thing.
You want to stand up and face everybody up there.
We also pretty much were in agreement with the things that you all said. So to piggyback off of that, we are here to learn more about sharing our ideas and developing communities of practice. We thought that it wouldn't be feasible to have these types of meetings all the time. So the STEP Central program would be instrumental in us being able to share with other STEP programs and then possibly and sharing best practices and developing a community for practice of communities. Sounds fun. But that's what we want to share. We want to learn and we want to be able to share what we have with others and see what others have to offer us as well.
Go ahead.
Why don't you stand up and
Quickly cover what that is that the grantees meeting was very useful, but we need another way of following up with that day and a half grantees meeting. We thought that STEP Central could be a place where we can look through them and our own regionally place, because once we got back from our grantees meeting, it was just so busy that we never made it. So maybe having a space out there that we can find for them. And then we also talk about recruiting and retention.
And I also like to add, I'm from Texas, and we've had a meeting of the Texas STEP grantees, several meetings of that group. And I think that that is really, really valuable to exchange information informally and much less pressure and everything. So I was hoping something like this would add to that.
the Texas meetings are interesting because, Texas has, I'm not sure either the most or the second most STEP projects, because they're all over the state. So when they say there's a Texas meeting, it's actually quite a good sized meeting, about this size.
You do everything big in Texas, right?
Everything else.
Including egos.
Sue?
So in our group, we have folks from a type 2 project, and they're looking at all the STEP programs as a whole, and they have some interesting questions like, what are the metrics and how come they're not very standard, and also, how can we even compare some metrics between one and the other? They're looking at the question about intervention programs in general and how they're structured, how they're funded, do they self-evaluate, do they persist, what are their success rates, all these interesting questions. Are they designed from original thought, or are they picking parts of different programs, or do they just adopt some model that in whole that seems to work? So I think that's about it for that approach, which I think is nice and unique. We have an evaluator also here who just wants to be more linked into the community, more than
The opportunity presents itself annually in DC, but if you're not at those meetings and you're looking for other ways to connect with the larger community, and especially in terms of evaluation. And then a couple of us are here who are either have finished STEP programs or in the final years, and we're looking at disseminating. And personally, I just want to see all the effort that I've put into it have more legs after our project is over. So that's our two.
Okay. Table way in the back, for those of you who are all farsighted.
We all introduced ourselves to each other and automatically recognized that there are people with different levels of expertise and different specialties. So what we all kind of agreed that we were looking for was also an opportunity to learn, to meet other people a part of the STEP, that are part of STEP projects, and an opportunity to have those informal conversations that we don't necessarily have the time to have during the STEP grantees meetings.
Over here. Oh, and when you stand up, can you introduce yourself so everybody knows who you are?
So I'm Kate.
Okay.
Yeah, so okay, Jim is highly motivated to come because he's been running peer-led team learning efforts at his university and has seen some great success with those. And those involve establishing a community of practice among the students. So he sees the power of establishing a community of practice. So he both wants to kind of advocate for that strategy with other STEP projects and see us build a community of practice of our own. John is especially interested in the fact that there's STEP, there's PCAL, there's other efforts to improve STEM in the US, and sort of, I've never even heard of PCAL, and evidently it's a pretty big thing. So he's interested in seeing a lot more cross-fertilization, like within STEP and then between STEP and other STEM enhancement efforts. Rakesh is an optimizer. When he sees a problem, he feels compelled to work on finding a solution. And he recognizes that no one person can do it, so he wants to be part of a team that is compelled to find solutions.
I'm just introduced to MD Lottie Brooks, and I stood through the last three just to pay for not standing when I summarized my table.
All right, now I have a technological problem.
While Daniel does that, I want to invite the evaluators in the room to maybe sit together at lunch so we can put our heads together.
Well, it's always interesting when you take a presentation and from one computer that you created and try to present it on another. I think what I heard from the tables is exactly the kind of thing that I wanted to hear. That number one, you've got lots of stories that you want to share with the rest of the community, and or you have this desire to hear other people's stories. And the annual meeting, while it's great and productive, is once a year, and that's not adequate to accomplish the kinds of things that we'd like to see from the whole community. I think what we'll try to discover today is, what are some of our commonalities, and what is it that we'd like to see from individual tools as we construct them in order to make a community that'll work. So we're assigning you with tasks that we would like to get accomplished by the end of the meeting. And these are on your agenda, so I'm not going to say anything more about them because I want to get on. So, communities of practice, or practicing community, whichever way we want to say it. This is a definition from sort of the guru of communities of practice, A.T.M. Wenger. And except everything in parentheses is what I put in. In the rest of the slides, you'll see COP standing for community of practice. Groups of people, that's the community, who share a concern or a passion for something they do. That's the domain. And for us, it's It's a fairly restricted domain. We're trying to increase the number of STEM graduates in a variety of ways and so forth. And to learn, this is the practice part, learn how to do it better when they, or as they interact regularly. Okay. So it's, what will make us a community of practice is really when we accomplish this. The rest of it is already taken care of for us, sort of, by the nature of the program and the fact we are a group. But this part is the crucial part. Learning to do it better through interaction with the rest of the community. It's the practice that we sort of thinking about. So when we think about the process of building a successful community, here are, I think, some of the elements that go into that. And I'm going to go through sort of each of these a little bit, because this is still really a way of structuring what we're doing today. Okay. For each of these, we can look at a couple of key questions that we would like to explore or answer. And the breakout sessions today, and to some extent the plenary sessions, are going to be targeted at exploring each of these issues in one way or another. Not necessarily explicitly, but it'll come up. So the first one, collective identity and clear purpose. And again, this is one that I actually think we need to do pretty much here. At least we need to start thinking about it. So this is going to be sort of the next topic for you to discuss at your tables. These three questions, what do we have in common? We've got a little bit of that, I think a little sense of that in the discussions about why you're here. What do we want to accomplish as a community? And how do we do that? Some of that, again, has come out. And I have my own ideas, which is why I got this grant to do this kind of thing. So how do we form community? How do we accomplish that? Well, I have sort of three main ideas. The annual meetings and other regional or topical meetings like the Texas group, person-to-person meetings, the website, webinars. Those are the three ideas that are out there. Maybe there are others. Maybe we need to think about how those three interact and so forth. So why don't you take a little bit of time to mull over these questions amongst yourselves, and then we'll come back and do the same thing we did, have somebody report back from each table. Okay. All right, let's these discussions are getting a little heated here. I'm already to take off my shirt. It's getting kind of warm. So can I get someone from this table to report? Just a very quick report, Casey.
It'll be real quick because we only got the first questions. We talked about being both Type 1 and Type 2 projects. We're ultimately here for the success of students and their participation and access to the STEM fields, but ultimately their degree completion in the STEM fields, whether it be for community college students, first-year students at four-year institutions, and so on. We're ultimately here for the students. We talked about the emphasis on underrepresented students, whether it be for women, students of color, low-income students, first-generation students, or students from economically or educationally disadvantaged backgrounds. And so we all serve those students differently, or we study them differently, but we share all of that in common. In terms of what we want to accomplish as a community, I'm going to venture out on a limb and say that we want to inform efforts outside of STEP Central. We want to inform each other's efforts, but there's a larger nationwide effort to increase student success in STEM. So how can we help that within our community practice? How can we help those larger efforts across the nation? And how we do that, I don't know.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about it. Kimberly.
We talked about the fact that we agreed that we were serving a customer and student, and that our focus was on degree completion. But we spent a lot of time talking about assessment and thinking about how this community practice might serve coming up with common assessment approaches, so that essentially as someone starts a project, they have an access to different techniques that could be used. So essentially some sort of template, and then how that could link back to some of the reporting that we do to NSF, so that we feel like that we're making good use of our time when we're providing data, and that it will really end up being used.
Yeah, Don.
We talked about,
This is Don Allen.
I
Actually,
met in Texas, one of those Texas. We talked about the wide diversity of people here and in particular interests. Like some are interested in studying the category or the type, the demographics of the students they get. Some are interested in recruitment practices. Some are interested in retention ideas. My interest was primarily at the beginning of a community practice, that we all get to know each other a little bit and get to know what the issues are of people, and then what will happen in a systemic way is that goals will happen and projects will happen. But it will happen as the group becomes a community.
I'm Ray McGee at SRI International. I'm with part of the STEP grant that's serving 4 institutions in Shenandoah Valley, Virginia. In our group, we talked about the fact that we're not quite yet a community. We all have individual grants, but this meeting provides an opportunity to kind of, initiate that community practice and start the interaction that's necessary for us to be able to continue to interact and to accomplish goals. We had a straight discussion about what we want to accomplish as a community of practice, and our discussion centered on the issue of disseminating best practices and understanding local context, and how local context may vary depending on the state or the project that people may have. And so we didn't come to any consensus, but we did draw out the fact that context is important, and that perhaps there's a way that we can find some common themes, even common metrics that would cut across different kinds of projects. But that's one of the things that we hope that we can discuss while we're here. Good.
Okay. Let's see, we got the renegade table over here.
So our table took kind of an engineering approach because we looked at the agenda and said to ourselves, oh gosh, by the end of the day, we're supposed to have a vision of community needs and goals, and then tasks and assignments in order to try to reach those goals. So we focused on the middle part of these questions. What do we want to accomplish as a community of practice? And we kind of the farthest we got is that as our North Star, we really need to have the overall goal of STEP, which is to increase students going into STEM and graduating with degrees in STEM. And then we need to think about what are the hurdles that are in the way of that. And we immediately got hung up on K-12 hurdles that we can't do anything about. And then we started talking about outreach and how that's a sneaky way to let your STEP project get into K-12. And so that's about as far as we got.
Okay. And then there's the back table over here.
Raman Tashikriya, Atlantic State University. Basically, I think the main thing was we learned that we have common things within in our table, also a common thing we wanted to do. So all of the above was something that we kind of touched and discussed. But perhaps the main item is that our goal is to increase the number of students who major in STEM discipline. And a big obstacle is that how we do that without touching the high school and program in high school, because there are a lot of articles that they said activities at the high school do not necessarily guarantee that students at the high school go and major actually in STEM disciplines, no matter how much time you spend with them. they said there is no guarantee. I mean, there's proof that they do lose, but there is no guarantee. So that connection is causing problems. So we thought that's a place that maybe we can all discuss how we can increase the number of incoming students to our program. Of course, retention is something that already been discussed, but that's something that I think we thought we can learn. We didn't get it all right.
A couple of comments here. The common goal, yes, we want to accomplish more STEM graduates. But this is kind of a surprise to me that I'm hearing that, there's a conflict that we can't approach K through 12. I'm a principal investigator for a STEP grant, and the arrangement is we have a Arizona State University plus 5 community colleges who are managing this grant over a 5-year period. And one of the major link there is outreach to high school. What we do is we organize summer engineering institute for high schools. We encourage them to participate in first robotics competition where they are motivated to join engineering. We are running a formal college level class called First Robotic Preparation, in which 24 only high school students can enroll, and they are being trained to participate in this robotic competition beginning in January. So we are trying to build strong relationships between high school and community college, encourage those so that more and more students participate. And to the best of my knowledge, we have plenty of funds available to do that within the STEP grant. So this was kind of a
Well, yeah, you will probably hear through the day why some people have frustrations with that and others don't. And hopefully that will come up in other conversations. But what I'm hearing in general is that that's sort of an outreach component of our community of practice. Several people talked about how do we expand outward from what it is that what normally think of as the STEP goals and what can be achieved within the context of individual STEP grants. And that one of the goals of the community might be to think about policy implications of what we're doing and what we're not able to do, and have some influence on that, whether or not it's the high school issue or not. And I can, what I can say about that is that it's much easier for community colleges to reach down to the high schools than it is for many of the four-year institutions who have to get their kids all the way through to graduation by the end of the grant and so forth. Community colleges, we recognize that they both have feeder schools that they can rely on students coming to them, and that they can actually get them with their degree or transfer out in a reasonable amount of time. But that's a specific detail that we need to put aside for the moment. Okay, so I don't have any good way of quickly, condensing all that and summarizing it. Those are ideas that are going to permeate your discussions throughout the day, and that's the intent, just to warm things up. The rest of the slides are going to be kind of like this one, and you have the handout, so I may not even go through all of them here because we're running out of time. But this is a crucial one because this is the STEP Leadership Workshop after all. You people are here because you're interested in some way in participating in a leadership role, hopefully, in developing this community of practice. And so we have to think a little bit about what that means and how we want to organize the community so that it accomplishes its purpose, so that the expertise of everybody in the community is transparent and available to the rest of the community, and so that members of the community are encouraged and can take on leadership roles that are consistent with their particular experience and their expertise. And one of the questions that we need to be thinking about today is what kind of leadership roles does the community actually need? What can you contribute? individually, but moreover, how would we structure this community in terms of its leadership? Would we have a mayor and a city council? Would we have a dictator and a few underlings and a secret police? You know, there are a variety of ways of organizing a community, and we need to think about, well, what would we do? What kinds of models of communities or organizations that we belong to can we think of that might be useful in this regard? Should we model ourselves after a professional society? Those kinds of things. What would this community look like? And in a professional society, for example, what are the different roles that people take in the leadership of the society? Each of the slides then has a series of questions that I'd like you to look at and read over and think about. And they will feed into each of the 3 breakout sessions in one way or another. Okay, now I'm just going to very quickly skip through. Oh, well, see, this one you recognize. These are the elements as I have seen them in our, for example, in our project proposal. The national meetings, the website, and the virtual meetings, and the kinds of things that are underneath each of these tools. These are opportunities for sharing our experiences, expertise, and knowledge with the rest of the community. So each of these then forms places in which we can think about what, for example, a leader might be able to do or contribute. How we can divide up the workload so that actually something happens. All right. I'm going to skip through now to the end because this is this just gives you the instructions on where to go for your next session. How are we doing with that? We're a little over. So these are the 3 breakout topics, the 3 sessions. So session 1, the red team will go to how will we use the Step Center website. The blue team will go here, and the green team will go to what's our community vision, what are our needs and tools. So, and then we move around for the next 2 discussions. So the first 2 happen before lunch, the last one happens after lunch. If you came in late and you don't know which team you belong to, it's on your list of participants. One side of the sheet is divided up, or is alphabetized. The other side is listed by team. Kimberly?
Are you intending that as each session goes on, we start fresh with those questions, or are you intending that we build on what came before?
We build on what came before in each of them. So we're not expecting you to come in cold after, you know, the people, the blue team, when they get here, are going to have experienced something completely different. Have talked about a lot of things that the green team will not have had the opportunity to talk about in that session. So come with wherever you happen to be in the meeting at that stage of the game. I anticipate that there's going to be overlap, and most of that is likely to be productive, I hope, and that's okay. Then when we come back for the plenary session later in the day, we'll be pulling all of this together. So we have the 3 breakout sessions. Then there's another breakout session in which, instead of repeating this over again, you get to work in groups to kind of come up with your tasks and identify, you know, where you see yourself fitting into the community and so forth, that kind of thing. And then we'll come back in the plenary session and put the whole thing together in some way. But we'll try to do that. Okay? Now, I have to show you. I'm going to wrap this up with a little video. I can figure out where that is. which is on the Step Center website. I've started a discussion group on the website that's called the Step Leadership Workshop, and this is the first post that's on there. So, just a little bit about leadership.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen, start to finish, in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore. It's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be the first follower. You stand out and brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut, and it's not 2 nuts. 3 is a crowd, and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers, because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. Over the next minute, you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is over-glorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
Okay, I can't decide whether we're...
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen, start to finish, in under 3... If you've learned a lot about...
All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and we're running a few minutes late, so let me explain to you how to get to your meeting room.